Oh man, Caitlyn she's a beast, man. Like, and they love her. So I'll probably say Caitlyn Clark. I love Tyrese, but she's another level in terms of just the love that she had.
For weeks, Caitlyn Clark was taking hit after hit on the court, while the WNBA stayed dead silent. Fans were furious. Pundits danced around the topic, but then the silence finally broke. And it wasn't from the WNBA, it was from the biggest names in the NBA. This wasn't some rehearsed PR statement. This was real, raw, and unfiltered. Steph Curry, LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and others didn't just acknowledge her talent, they stood up for her. They saw what was happening with their own eyes, and they weren't having it. Steph Curry had clearly had enough. After watching Clark take cheap shots while the league turned a blind eye, he finally spoke, and his words echoed through every corner of the basketball world. When someone like Curry steps in and says, "Enough is enough," you don't ignore it, you pay attention. And the best part, he wasn't alone. At least 6 NBA All-Stars went public, calling out what they believed was flat-out unfair treatment. Their message was loud and clear. Caitlyn Clark isn't some media hype machine. She's an elite player who deserves respect, and the targeting has to stop. So what exactly did they say? We're about to break down the raw word-for-word reactions from NBA stars who didn't hold back. And trust me, some of their comments will catch you completely off guard. Let's start with Pascal Siakam. Known for his smooth two-way play and championship pedigree, no one expected him to even bring up Clark. But when asked about which athletes get the most genuine respect, he didn't give the safe answer. He didn't stick to the usual names. Out of nowhere, he dropped Caitlyn Clark's name. Not as a throwaway compliment, not as a forced mention, but as someone, in his own words, who deserves more recognition than some players in his own league.
Yeah, Caitlyn's amazing. Super amazing. She's a great player. Having her be courtside and watching our games is awesome. We see the excitement that she has on the sides, but just like she's doing that, we do the same. Like when they're playing, like it's so much, it's a joy to watch.
Let that sink in for a second. Pascal Siakam wasn't comparing Caitlyn Clark to WNBA players. He was putting her name next to Tyrese Halliburton, his NBA teammate and one of the most electric point guards in the league. And still, Siakam said Caitlyn is the one getting the most love. That's not just high praise. That's a reality check. It's a clear sign that Caitlyn Clark's impact isn't contained to just one league. She's pierced through that invisible barrier between the WNBA and NBA. And players like Siakam are taking notice. He could have name-dropped any NBA star in that moment, but he chose Caitlyn Clark. That's not a random quote. That's a shift in the culture. That's a superstar being recognized across basketball, period. And here's the kicker. Siakam didn't need to say it, but he chose to. That alone says everything. Now let's talk about Obi Toppin. He's not exactly the go-to guy for headline quotes or viral press conferences. He's known for throwing down monster dunks, not monologues. But that's what made his comment about Caitlyn Clark even more powerful. There was no media polish, no scripted delivery, just raw honesty. And that hits harder than any PR soundbite. Obi Toppin brings flair and swagger on the court, but when he talked about Caitlyn, his tone shifted. It wasn't just about her skill, it was about her presence. The way she's shifting the entire landscape of the sport. That wasn't just respect, that was admiration for someone doing something far bigger than just putting up numbers.
She's, I think for me, getting to actually spend time around her, be around her, get to know her personally, she's just an amazing person, an amazing player. She deals with there's a lot of rhetoric behind her that she really has no control over, and I think that the way she handles that is just amazing. Like, I think when it comes to the game of basketball, like, she's probably top 5 most famous people that are playing right now, just in general. That includes our league as well.
It's not the phrasing that hits hardest, it's the parody. Obi Toppin talked about Caitlyn Clark and the WNBA like they belong right there beside the NBA, not beneath it, not as some side note. They celebrate her game the same way they celebrate each other's. That mutual respect, it's rare and powerful. There's something undeniably cool about seeing Caitlyn Clark sitting courtside at an NBA game and knowing the players genuinely care. It's not the typical, hey, a celebrity celebrities here moment. It's real. It's hoopers recognizing another hooper. Obi's comment didn't need to go viral to matter. It wasn't designed to make headlines, but it represented something bigger. Caitlin Clark isn't just a standout in women's basketball anymore. She's part of the larger basketball culture. She's earned that crossover, and when NBA players talk about you like you're one of them, you've already made it. Now let's talk Tyrese Halliburton. It would have been easy for him to give a generic teammate quote, something safe like, "Yeah, she's great, I respect her game." But that's not what he did. Tyrese spoke from a place of firsthand experience, from sharing the same city, the same spotlight, from watching Caitlin Clark fight through every bit of pressure and criticism and still rise. His words weren't PR approved, they were personal, and that's what made them matter more than anything else.
Because everybody is looking for you to say anything, and they're gonna splice it and cut it and make it a negative thing. And I think for her, the one thing that I love that she's bringing to her sport, more people want to watch. More people want to tune in. I saw for the first time that they had a chartered plane for the first time in their league history. They flew private. That should be celebrated in its own right.
Top 5 most famous athletes in the world. That's the list Tyrese Halliburton just put Caitlin Clark on, and he wasn't exaggerating. He wasn't chasing headlines. He was being real. This is an NBA All-Star putting her name next to legends like LeBron, Steph, and Jokic. Not for clicks, but because he sees what's happening. He knows the numbers. He hears the crowd noise. He watches the chaos that follows Clark everywhere she goes. And as someone who carries the weight of a franchise himself, he understands just how insane that pressure is. But what makes his quote even more powerful? The compassion behind it. Tyrese isn't just praising Caitlin as a basketball star. He's standing up for her as a human being. He sees the criticism, the hate, the non-stop media circus she never asked for, and he's using his platform to say she can handle it all. Then comes LeBron James. And when the king speaks, it's never just words. It's a cultural shift. Sports media rewinds every sentence. Social feeds explode with every take. That's the gravity of LeBron. So when he decided to speak up for Caitlin Clark, it wasn't small talk. It was a powerful, calculated message. It wasn't just about basketball, it was about what she represents. And it cut through all the noise, all the drama, and reminded the world exactly why Caitlin Clark matters right now.
You were hype about Steph and Sabrina. I know that you have spoken about Caitlin Clark. You're a big Caitlin Clark fan. Oh, yeah. She, of course, is an excellent shooter. Would you ever do like a Caitlin Trey three-point contest at All-Star?
Of course I would. I've gotten to talk to her too throughout her college years. We're the only 2 people that ever led college in points and assists. That's a crazy stat. I'd have to definitely practice a lot more than I have for these previous three-point competitions. Nah, I'd be ready for sure. I'd do it.
This wasn't just LeBron James standing up for Caitlin Clark. This was LeBron standing up for the future of the game. He's been where she is. He understands the weight of being a generational talent, carrying not just a franchise, but a movement. LeBron knows what it feels like to become the reason a league changes its rules, upgrades travel, shifts its culture. That's not just playing basketball, that's reshaping history. And when he looked at Caitlin, he didn't just see a rising star, he saw someone walking a path he knows all too well. That's not fanboy energy, that's respect. And coming from LeBron, that kind of respect means everything. Now let's talk about Trae Young, the king of deep threes and confidence to match. The guy lives for long-range heat checks. So when he starts suggesting a three-point shootout with Caitlin Clark, you know it's more than just banter. It's playful, sure, but there's real admiration under the surface. Trae recognizes game. He sees Caitlin not as a WNBA player, but as a shooter, a real one. That's not a compliment, that's recognition from a peer. This isn't just hype, it's a signal. Caitlin Clark has officially arrived in the conversation with the league's best, and they're the ones saying it.
You gotta put it in perspective, right? These girls have been grinding to grow the game of basketball in the WNBA. They've been grinding to grow the sport to the world, the viewerships. They've been grinding for all of this. And then you have this girl that comes along from college and is an instant change. She's handed pretty much being the face of the league. There's going to be girls that are offended by that.
Let's start with the numbers. Only 2 players in NCAA history have ever led the country in both scoring and assists in a single season. That's not just a fun trivia stat, that's legendary territory. And when Trae Young talks about Caitlin Clark, there's no fake hype, no forced praise. It's genuine. One elite scorer recognizing another. He didn't say he'd win that shootout. In fact, he joked he'd have to get his reps up just to keep up. That right there, that's respect at the highest level, because Caitlin's not just part of the basketball conversation anymore. She is the conversation. And Trae, he's either ready to share the spotlight or meet her in a showdown. Then there's Paul George, a guy who doesn't talk just to trend. When he speaks, it's thoughtful, intentional. And when it came to Caitlin Clark, he didn't jump straight into applause or criticism. He zoomed out, gave perspective. While most of the noise around her has focused on highlight reels or controversial fouls, Paul went deeper. He didn't just see the stats, he saw the bigger picture.
Who's your favorite women's basketball player?
Caitlin Clark.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't like Paige Buchers?
She's okay. I didn't see her playing in the women's NBA, so.
This wasn't Paul George taking a shot at Caitlin Clark. Not at all. What he did was offer a reality check about the cultural shift we're all watching happen in real time. He never denied her greatness. In fact, by calling her an instant change, Paul made it clear he sees the impact. But what made his words stand out wasn't the praise, it was the perspective. He brought attention to something that often gets ignored: the emotional weight this moment carries for the veterans, the women who paved the way, the ones who played in half-empty arenas, who fought for basic resources, who never had camera crews trailing them. They built the league. And now Caitlin walks in and becomes the face of the WNBA overnight. Even if she's earned it, that still stings. Paul didn't defend the bitterness, but he did help us understand it. And in doing so, he showed us this isn't just a sports story. It's a cultural reset. Caitlin Clark didn't just step into the spotlight, she became the spotlight. And with that comes friction, emotion, and a shift that touches everyone. Then there's Luka Doncic, the guy who never bites his tongue. You've seen it. Whether it's post-game interviews or on the floor, Luka keeps it real, always. So when he was asked about women's basketball, there was no script, no sugarcoating. He didn't dance around the topic. In just a few words, he made it clear. Caitlin Clark is part of something real, something bigger than hype.
I'm sick of watching Caitlin getting attacked. If the league doesn't step up and protect her, things are going to get ugly real fast.
That pause, that shift in tone, it wasn't disrespect, it was a statement. Luka Doncic didn't ignore Paige Buechers' talent, and far from it, but he made one thing clear: Caitlin Clark is doing it right now, on the pro stage, against grown women, night after night. She's not just a former college sensation or a March Madness highlight machine. She's in the grind, taking hits, making plays, leading under pressure. Luka's response wasn't flashy, but real ones knew what he meant. He's been there. From young prodigy to NBA superstar. So when Luka speaks on what it takes to make that leap and actually deliver, it hits different. This wasn't praise, it was validation. When a generational NBA talent gives you that kind of nod, it's not flattery, it's fact. Caitlin's not on her way, she's already here. And Luka isn't the only one watching. Steph Curry had seen enough too. He saw the cheap shots, the silence from the league, the noise building. And then Steph, the most respected shooter in the world, stepped up, and when he finally spoke, his words hit like a dagger.
I saw somebody break down the release time, which is pretty much identical to mine, and it hurt just confidence out. You can't help but watch when she plays, where she's shooting from, the range, the confidence, the flair. Like, she's a performer. It's crazy though, just because her shot is like that, it's at that level. If you really watch, like, her floor game is as impressive, so it's kind of the total package.
That wasn't just Steph showing support, that was a wake-up call. When Stephen Curry speaks out like that, you can bet the whole league and every fan watching sits up and listens. But he didn't stop at calling out the cheap shots Caitlin's been taking. He took it even further. He broke down her game, piece by piece, like only the greatest shooter alive can. He talked about her limitless range, her elite timing, and the fearlessness that reminded him of himself. And when Steph said it, you could feel it. That wasn't hype, it was real respect.
Favorite WNBA player? Asia Wilson.
play that back. Steph Curry, the greatest shooter the game has ever seen, just said Caitlin Clark's jumper rivals his own. That's not a casual compliment. That's respect from the top of the mountain. And it gets better. Steph didn't stop with her range. He called her a performer. He highlighted the IQ, the court awareness, the passes that thread needles, the reads casual fans miss, but real hoopers recognize instantly. It's not just that Steph sees her. He's impressed. That's rare, because when the guy who literally reshaped the game says you have the total package, that's not just a shout out, that's a torch being passed. But sometimes what's not said is even louder, and when Jason Tatum was tossed a softball question, who's your favorite WNBA player? He had every chance to show love, to join the movement, to give the obvious nod to Caitlin Clark like so many other stars had already done. Instead, dead silence. A flat, blank answer. No name, no energy, nothing. That was it. No explanation, no context, not even a passing nod to Caitlin Clark. Jason Tatum didn't just skip her name. He erased her from the conversation entirely. Let's be clear, Aja Wilson is elite, a champion, a force. But this wasn't about dissing Aja. This was about ignoring the one player who's literally carrying the league on her shoulders. Caitlin Clark changed everything. Ticket sales, TV ratings, sponsorship deals, all of it. And one of the NBA's biggest names acted like she didn't exist. No shout out, no props, no respect. That's not just disappointing, that's insulting. Caitlin Clark isn't asking for fake praise. She's earned it. She's taken more abuse on the court than any rookie should. Snubbed from Team USA, dragged through media headlines, and yet she shows up every night and delivers. And after all that, Tatum couldn't even say her name? That's not silence. That's a message. I see what you're doing, and I don't care. And that's exactly the kind of subtle disrespect Clark has been up against. Not from trolls, but from the very stars she's inspiring. Then there's Kevin Durant, arguably the loudest voice in basketball when he chooses to speak. When KD talks, people listen, period. So when he was asked to name his favorite female athlete, everyone expected to hear one name, Caitlin Clark. But he didn't say it, no pause, no hesitation. He gave a one-word answer. And it wasn't her. That wasn't random. That was intentional. Clark is the biggest story in basketball this year. Breaking records, selling out arenas, making WNBA games must-see TV. She's taken hit after hit, still shows grace, still performs at a superstar level, and instead of celebrating that, KD chose to highlight the one player who's thrown the most public shade her way, Angel Reese. Look, Reese is talented, no one's denying that, but Caitlin's the one who changed the game. So for KD to back Reese over Clark, that's not a preference, that's a power move, and a slap in the face to the woman carrying the WNBA into a new era. It's not just what Durant said, it's what it meant. He didn't just ignore Clark's success, he actively undermined it. And when someone with KD's influence makes that kind of choice, the message is clear. You can lead the league in ratings, drive the culture forward, put the sport on your back, and still get left out. And that's the problem, because while some stars are staying silent or playing favorites, others are speaking the truth. Pascal Siakam said she gets more love than his own NBA teammate. Steph Curry literally saw himself in her game. LeBron James praised her influence on everything from charter flights to full arenas. Tyrese Halliburton called her one of the 5 most famous people in basketball, not the WNBA, basketball. Luka Doncic picked her over Paige Buchers. Trae Young wants a 3-point shootout. Obi Toppin lit up like a fanboy. Paul George shut down the haters in 3 words. And yet, Tatum stayed silent. Durant made a statement. The NBA isn't unified on Caitlin Clark, and maybe that's the point, because greatness doesn't invite silence. It triggers reactions. And Clark's greatness, that's undeniable. She's not just raising the bar, she's changing the conversation. And if you're not standing with her as she does it, maybe you were never built for this era in the first place. And the wildest part, she's just getting started.